In the second video for the second app in the Code Tutor Swift programming tutorial application, we're going to continue our look at variables, just creating a basic application to show a little more use of variables. And then we're going to get an early look at the next section, which is the if-else statements. So as you read in the tutorial above, the application is going to allow the user to input two grades into text fields. Those grades will be averaged, and then based off of the if-else statements that we create, the letter grade based off of that numeric value will be output to the user. So let's get started by creating a new Xcode project. Single view application is fine for this. And I'm going to call it GradeCalc. Save it in our normal place. And the first thing that we're going to want to do is open up our main storyboard. So I'm going to go ahead and click at the yellow circle again here at the top to change our size. I'm just going to change it to 5.5 just for viewing. Actually, let's go ahead and make it one smaller, the 4.7, then we'll get the whole thing in our screen here. So we're going to need to add a few labels, a couple of text fields, and a button that when the user presses it, it performs the action of running the calculation and then outputting the grade. So let's get started with a label at the top. And let's change the text of this label to letter grade calculator. And I'm going to make some changes to the text here in the same place that we looked at before. I'm just going to go with Georgia. I'm going to make it a little larger. Let's try with 22. Let's bold it, and let's play with the text color. Let's go with this green. So then let's expand the label box here so we see our whole thing, and then get it right in the center. Also beforehand, I downloaded an image just to add a little more to the app, and I have it sitting here on my desktop. So the same exact way, we'll just drag it into the assets folder and copy it all in so we can make use of it. And then I want to put my image at the top this time. So let's search for an image view, drag it in. Then with that selected, we're going to change to grade. And so it doesn't look correctly, so let's try aspect fit. That's a little better. Let's move that right up under, not too close, under our first label there. So now we're going to need two more labels and two text boxes. So we can grab a label first, drag it in here, and we're going to change the text of this to enter grade 1. And you can feel free to play around with this text the same exact way that we changed this up here, however you'd like. And then I'm going to just copy and paste and change that to enter grade 2. Okay, and then we need our two text fields. So we'll put one right under here, expand it just a little bit. Everything up so it looks nice and neat. Then let's copy this one and paste it. Get that right under there. And then the last thing we need, those even. The last thing we're going to need is one more label for our output. I'm going to drag that in here. Expand everything a little bit. And the only change I'm going to make for the purpose of this video is just to center it. You can make any change that you want there. I'm also going to, well, I'll leave label there for now so we can see it when we're doing our outlets. So let's move that down a little bit because we need to put in our button. So let's search for a button, drag that in right there. I'm going to change the text of this to get grade. Expand that a little bit. And just like with the rest, you can make whatever changes you'd like with that, just to play around with some more of the settings over here and get familiar. So let's go to our double view here so we have access to our main storyboard and also our view controller file. So we need to create an outlet for our two grade entry text fields. So we do that by just control, click, and drag over just like before. And I'm going to call this one input A since it's our input. And then this I'm going to do the same thing and call it input B. And then we also need our output label down here. So control, click, drag, and I'm going to call it output label. And then right under all of this, we're going to create the action for our button. So let's control, click, drag, change this to action, and I'm going to call it get grade button. So connect it, and then we'll do all of our coding right inside of these two open and close curly brackets. So the first thing that we're going to need to do is come up with some variables. So we'll need 3 variables in particular for this one. We need a variable to store grade 1, a variable to store grade 2, and then a variable that is the total of those two added together. Then we'll average them, make that a variable, and then we'll create a final variable for our final grade, which will be output. So let's go ahead and create a variable grade 1. And I'm going to initialize this at the same time, tell the app where it's coming from. So that equals input A dot text. And we're going to have to unwrap it since there's nothing there. But an additional step that we're going to need to make this time is that is coming in as string, but we want it to be int. So we just type int and enclose all of this in some parentheses. And then our code will know that we're expecting string to be to come from that text field, but then be changed to int for us to do some math with. Let's do the same thing for grade 2 equals int. We want this to be input B dot text, and let's unwrap it. Ooh. Did that wrong. Okay, next we need to get the total of these. We're going to say var total equals grade 1. There's nothing there yet, so we'll need to unwrap it to say it's coming, plus grade 2. And then we're going to get the average, so we need a variable for average equals our total divided by 2. And then we're going to want to save that into a variable that we call final grade, but we don't know what that is yet, so we're just going to declare it a var final grade, and we're going to set it as the type character because the output there is going to be A, B, C, D, or F, obviously. So let's take a look at how we would go about telling the code After you've averaged, if this is the number you get, this is the letter grade it should be. And we do that by making some little if-else-if statements. So our first one, and this is all going to be new, you will go into more detail in this in the next section, so just try to follow along as best as you can. So we have if, and all of our if statements, the action that's going to be performed is enclosed inside parentheses here. So we want average, which is the name of our variable here, is greater than or equal to, and in this case I'm going to say 90. So that's what it's looking for. If that happens, it's going to run this code inside of here. And if that is the case, if the average is greater than or equal to 90, then final grade equals A. So then next we're going to have an else if statement, and it's the same format. So if average is greater than or equal to 80, close off that parentheses, and then this is what happens if that's the case. Final grade equals B. Okay, one more. Else if average is greater than or equal to 70, then our final grade equals C. Else if average is greater than or equal to 60, then final grade equals D. And so then just to close it all out, we need to have, we wouldn't want to do else if again, we want to have a catch-all. So let's go ahead and just do an else statement. Open that and close it. This is what's going to happen if nothing else above it is true. That's how these work. So it checks this first. If that's not true, it moves along to this. If that's not true, it moves along. So it's going to keep going until it gets to our final little statement here that says if nothing else above this was true, this is what you need to do. So if nothing else was true, then final grade obviously equals F. And then the last thing that we want to do here is perform our output. So we're going to do output label dot text equals, and I'm doing this in the wrong place, that's why it's not highlighting. So you can get right in here. So output label dot text equals your letter grade is, and then we want to call that variable. So we're going to do a slash and final grade and close off those parentheses. So that's it. That's the pretty basic way of running this and putting it into some code. So let's try to go ahead and run it, and we're going to want to run this on the iPhone 6.
Build started.
Take a look and see here. We should be able to enter 2 grades, push that get grade button, and then get some kind of output. And let's hope it's the correct output. So we get our simulator launching. The only thing I forgot to do was to remove the text from this label here. So we're going to see that inside of our application when it loads. But when we push our calculate button, it should change the text there. See here we have label. So let's try it. Let's say that we have 100 and our second grade is a 75. So as an average that should be 87, so we should get B. Let's get rid of our keyboard here. And then hit get grade, and you see we got your letter grade is B. So let's try it one more time where we have, let me toggle this keyboard again. And later on, we'll see how to go about coding in so that once we hit outside of there, hit the return button, that goes away. So let's say we have a 50 and a 50. So obviously we should get an F for this. Move that keyboard. The letter grade is F. So there you go, a simple little way of taking a little further look at the types of variables we use. We had some ints, character, string data, and also you got an early look at the if-else statements that we're going to take a further look at in the next section.